did you actually always knew what you wanted to do, or did one thing lead to the other? Like, how did life really happen? So you were telling us about starting very early at the age of 15. So what started to happen? You were young and you started to figure out that you wanted to work, or what was it?
So I was always interested in writing, and from a very young age, I think I was about 9 or 10, that I used to write these short poems and short stories and send them. I used to live in Bombay, so I used to send them out to the Indian Express newspaper. They used to have like a kids corner. Thankfully, my school inculcated a lot of habits about reading newspapers from a very young age, and I was very fond of reading a newspaper every day of my life. In fact, I still read newspapers in newspaper form, not on the digital form, in a paper form even today. I used to write these poems and short stories, and they used to get published. And I would earn some little money. Back in those days, sometimes 20 rupees and 30 rupees. I think the maximum I earned was like a 50 rupees for one of the poems that I had written. I was like, the money was not the main motivator, but it would always make you feel nice that you were getting rewarded for your work. And that kind of motivated me to continue writing. So I started writing opinions. So I would write letters to the editors about various things that were happening in the society, about the country and whatever. And I realized two things. One, that I was interested in politics and general administration that was happening around in the world. And two, that I was good at writing. So I thought, why not pursue something in journalism? So I actually decided to take up political science as my major in college, and I pursued my degree in political science. And parallelly, since I was interested in writing, I just I think I was lucky that I just happened to get some chance. There was a newspaper, a kids' newspaper that was getting launched, and this was 1996. And they were looking for some young writers who were more like students to join their board. And I remember I just walked into their office. It was in Churchgate somewhere. And I met this wonderful lady over there. And I told her, I said, you know what, I'm from so and so school, and I've just finished my 10th, and I'm now joining college, but I'm interested in writing. And I actually took my stories and my poems, which I had collected in a file, and showed it to her. And she said, "Wow, this looks interesting, but this is not journalism, because this is not articles. Will you be able to write features?" And I said, "Okay, I'm willing to learn. Give me something to write." Luckily, this was the time when the Olympic Games were happening in Atlanta in 1996, and she told me that, why don't you do like a three part story on the Olympic Games, on the history of the Olympic Games. And I said, okay, I would do that. So I went back home. I used to have some encyclopedias, so I removed those and did my research. I asked my grandfather, I asked my father, I said, whatever you guys know about the Olympics, tell me. And they did that. And I wrote this three-part story series, and I just went a week later, gave it to her, and I thought maybe it's okay. She didn't. She just looked at them and she said, "Okay, I'll come back to you." And I thought, okay, I've given it a shot. Let's see if it happens or not. To my surprise, the following Friday, when the newspaper came out, and my mother picked up a copy on the way to her office from the railway station, she, from a public phone, called me and she said, "You know what? There's an article of yours that has come on the Olympic Games." And I was like, "Really?" And I rushed to the railway station to pick that copy. And I said, I looked at it and I was so happy. From there on, there was no looking back, because within the first 3 months of my starting off journalism with this paper, I wrote an article for the Indian Express, which was a full-fledged article on the education system that was prevailing in our country. And again, this was very surprising, because one day when I wrote the article, it came in the press on a Tuesday morning. I was in my class, my political science professor, and I was in grade 11 that time. My political science professor came into the classroom with this newspaper and started reading this article. And, I was like, this sounds very familiar. And then at the end of it, she tells me, she said, she kind of told the whole class, and this article has been written by one of us, and here is the guy. And I was like so embarrassed at that point of time, as I was like, okay, I really need to sink this feeling in that people have started taking note of what I'm doing in my life. And it was phenomenal. And then after that, I went on to write almost around 2000 articles in prominent dailies, right from Times of India, Indian Express, The Statesman. In 5 years of my college life, I actually got almost 2000 plus articles. I was amongst the most busiest, I would say, of freelancers that were operating, and probably one of the well paid ones as well. And that really gave me a boost up till 2001 when I finished my college. But then after that, I was like, this is not what I want to do for a living, and I wanted to get into entrepreneurship. I had 5 years of experience, and it is again very surprising because after I finished my graduation, my mother forced me to do a course in journalism. And I still recall this when I went to apply at this course at the Bombay College of Journalism. The dean of the college actually came out with my application in her hand, and she said, "Are you sure you're here to study or to teach?" "No, I'm here to study." And she was like, "But with your experience, you should be teaching here." And I'm like, "You know what, ma'am, I'm very happy to do that, but somebody should go and explain this to my mother, who still thinks that without a degree, I'm useless." So here I am because I need to get a degree to show it to her. So I did that.
Yeah. So